My name is Randy Parsons. I'm a grateful member of the Worldwide Fellowship of Al-Anon.
Hey, Randy.
And tonight you're going to hear a story that I've never told before. I hate that somebody was expecting to hear my AA talk tonight. I've got some CDs. I've spoken probably 100 times in AA. I've never spoken for Al-Anon. But I got an Al-Anon story, folks. And I'm so grateful that I found Al-Anon, and I'll try to tell you a little bit about all that. I do have a couple things I want to say first. I want to thank Archie and whatever committee he had that invited me here. If y'all don't like what I say tonight, get mad at him, because he's the one that invited me. I just had a few little bullet points I wanted to make sure I talked about tonight, so I've got a couple of notes here. Usually don't have any because my story is so long that I got plenty to talk about if I stayed here until next Tuesday. But I do want to thank Archie and them, and I'm going to, some of y'all that may not know much about Al-Anon, Lois Wilson, Bill Wilson's wife, was one of the co-founders of Al-Anon, along with Ann Smith, Dr. Bob's wife. And I want to do what Lois did every time she told her Al-Anon story. She'd always say, if you would, let's have another moment of silence and invite our higher power to come into the meeting, whatever your higher power is. And I'm going to invite mine, and I call him Pop. You know, this seems to fit. So just a moment of silence, if you would. All right, and I got the time on here. That don't mean anything. That just means I got the time on here. I'll try to do my best to get y'all out of here by midnight. I used to tell people that, they said, man, we can't stay that long. I said, I hope I can't either. And I do want to make sure that Eugene gets his allotted time to tell his AA story.
Take all the time you want, Randy.
We've been trying to figure out which one of us was going to talk first and leave first. You know, I think back in my first contact with Al-Anon was about 1992. And you're going to hear some of my AA talk in here, but not much. I hope I keep it up pretty much all the time. And I back in the old days, we met at a big old mansion up off of Prince Avenue. Wasn't in too good a condition back then, but it was an old mansion. And the Al-Anons met in the basement. You know, we stuck them in the basement and we stayed up in the time. And I went into them AA meetings and I asked somebody one time, I said, who does the cleanup for us and makes this coffee and everything? And they said, well, the Al-Anons do it. And said, you ought to go downstairs and thank them. Now I'm brand new sober. And all of a sudden I started heading that way to go in that basement, and I went, this don't sound right. I'm glad I didn't go down there and thank them ladies and men for taking care of cleaning up after, because that's all they'd done before was clean up after us, and make our coffee, make our beds, wash our toilets, clean our clothes. It'd be like me when I told one of my ex-wives one time, she said something about me maybe not fulfilling my whole obligation around the house there. I said, well, hell, I took the trash out last week. Hey, I want y'all to laugh. So, you know I'm telling the truth. 'Cause some of y'all done been down that road. Anyway, I met up there and I finally started going a few Al-Anon meetings. I don't even know how many, but my ex-wife at that time was an alcoholic and in recovery. And I thought, well, maybe I need to go down there, because my daughter was 6.5 years old when I sobered up. And I already starting to have these thoughts about what if she grows up to be like her mom and daddy? I might need to go to some Al-Anon meetings, a kid 6.5 years old, he might be out drinking and drugging next weekend or something. And so I went downstairs and went to a few of them meetings, and I can't tell you one thing they said. Because I was always trying to figure out how to get out of the meeting. I didn't think I fit there. Really, I was scared. Mm-hmm. And some of you may be new in here tonight and you may be scared. Keep coming. Keep coming. I used to say I've never been scared in my life. I was just insane. I didn't realize that I was had a grown-up body and a little child's mind, and I was scared to death of everything. I could take me a few drinks of alcohol, I wasn't scared of you women no more. I'd go out and dancing with you. Having a good time. Anyway, I went to a few meetings and I got me about a nickel's worth of what these Al-Anons had, Appreciate it, see you later. And I left Al-Anon and didn't go back until about 8 years ago. And that little 6.5-year-old girl that I told you I was concerned about, that done got to growing up. And I put her in her first treatment center at 17. Maybe I had some intuitive thoughts. I'm a believer that there's some genetic stuff goes on in all this stuff. On both sides, both the Al-Anon side and the AA side. And I put her in treatment at 17 and she already had a baby. And she called me one time, said, we were talking, just having a conversation. She said, oh, by the way, your child ever calls you and says, oh, by the way, you better hang up that phone quick. Something bad coming. And she said, oh, by the way, you're going to be a granddaddy. And I said, well, there ain't no way. I ain't got no son-in-law. You don't have to have no son-in-law to be a granddaddy. I'm proof. And I got scared. And I got scared of what I was going to do. What I was capable of doing. Somehow I got through that, but I was still not coming to Al-Anon. And it rocked on along, and that child is 36 years old today. I still have concerns for her, but they're not as great as they once were, because she's fulfilling a little obligation to the state of Georgia. And they call it a women's facility, which is nothing but a nice way of saying prison. But it's a nice word, So about 8 years ago, I'd done had it up like this mask. It done got up over my nose. So I can handle stuff when it's down below my nose, I can keep doing and doing and doing. But when it get up above my nose, see, I done had enough. And I have to be honest about this, and I'm not proud of it one bit. But I didn't know which one of us needed to die, me or my daughter. One of us was wasting God's air. And I've been working with my sponsor for 10 years on how to try to fix this situation. And I'll tell you today, folks, you can't fix it. But you can get better and you can accept it, and you can move along the path of recovery in Al-Anon, or if you should go somewhere else, whatever. So I started going to Al-Anon, but I want to drop back a little bit. You know, my mama was my greatest enabler. And my mama almost loved me to death. And I almost loved my daughter to death. But my mama, I remember her one time coming up to me. I done slipped back in the house Sunday afternoon. And I think my mama, we never talked about it, but I believe she'd done been around Al-Anon. And she just looked at me and said, "Is it bad enough yet?" I said, "I wonder what the hell she's talking about." You know, ain't nothing wrong with me. You know, I've been missing for 3 or 4 days, but other than that, you know, I wasn't missing too far away. And so my mom, I believe, might have had something to do with it. And she had helped her, one of her best friends' husband was an alcoholic, and she used to help that lady, and they'd go places and talk about stuff, and I didn't know what they were doing, but I believe she might have been going to some Al-Anon. I really do. Maybe I'll find out when I get that big meeting up there. So anyway, I'm going crazy, and I can't figure out what to do, and I done tried to love my daughter sober, I done tried to buy her sober, I done tried to hate her sober, I done tried to cuss her out sober. I had threatened her with everything short of murder, and I was contemplating that. That's how sick I got. And I was 20 some odd years sober now in AA. And I was hurt. I was broken and frustrated and angry and you know, just everything is just like walking around and there were needles in the air, you know, I just, ugh. And I was in a meeting one day and I was sharing all that foolishness, you know, how I felt and how, you know, just all about me, you know, like poor little Randy, dear daughter don't marry right, God almighty, I need to cry. You know, really what I was looking for, some sympathy. You say what you want to, but when I see you start crying, you're looking for sympathy. And a dear friend of mine came up to me after that meeting, and he knew what kind of condition I was in, and he knew I'd been sober a long time. And he asked me one simple thing. He said, "Randy, I'd like to invite you to my home Al-Anon group." And I said to myself, I said, "Well, you know, I went back there 20 years ago, and I sat down in that old musty basement and listened to them people yak about something they didn't know. I didn't know what they were talking about. Wasn't sure they did either." He said, "I just want to invite you to, would you'd like to come? We'd love to have you come visit." And he was like, "Man, you know, like come to the house and visit." And he knew something. He knew I'd do one or two things. I'd either go and listen, or I'd tell him to kiss my ASSS. Don't stick your nose in my business. Can't you see I got it under control? And you know that's why he asked me, because he could see I did not have it under control. And I went home and I got to thinking, and I said, I got to do something, and I don't know what to do. And like I say, I done tried everything I knew to try, except help from you. And I prayed about it, prayed about it, prayed about it, and prayed about it, prayed about it some more. And be careful what you pray for. You just might get it. You pray to get sober, and you come into AA and hang around with them folks in there, you just might get sober. If you pray about something in Al-Anon, and you come into Al-Anon and hang around with them for a while, you just might have that happen. And I prayed, and finally I got this answer from my higher power, old Pop. And I made a decision I'd go to 3 Al-Anon meetings a week for a year. And if nothing happened and I didn't get better in a year, then we'd sit down and make the decision on who needed to be checking out. Like I said, I didn't know which one of us, I just knew one of us. And I did that. And I went to Al-Anon 3 meetings a week for a year. And folks, I got help in 30 days. I did not get well and cured and all hunky-dory and rainbows and unicorns and all that stuff, you know, and candygrams from the sky and all such as that. But I got okay enough to where I didn't hate my daughter. And I got okay enough to look at Randy and not blame my daughter. One of my dear friends in the program, she's sitting across from me in a meeting one night, and she looked at me, and she got this voice, and this is what I think it sounds like. She said, Randy. It's not about her. It's about you. And I said, well, hell, that's what they've been telling me all this time across the hall over yonder. That can't be the answer, because they've been telling me that over yonder, you know. And she was right. You know, and that's the amazing thing. And I started to be where I started to introduce myself to these people in these Al-Anon rooms. And, you know, they were scared just like me, some of them, the new ones. I remember one guy I really got kind of close to. Because it was the same way when I come in that group. Me and him was the only men. Now we got a bunch of men in our group on Monday over there. And me and him kind of got friendly, and his daughter was a lot like mine. And his daughter had a wreck. And she was drunk. And she died. And I didn't see this fella for a couple of weeks. And I finally called him. And I said, man, I said, what's going on? He told me about his daughter. I said, well, you know, you coming back? He said, no, I don't need to now. And I thought, I don't ever want to hear myself say that. I need Al-Anon just as much, if not more, today than I did when I first went in there. But you see, I hang around somewhere a while and I start thinking. Got 3.5 hours. How about that? Because I start thinking, then I start making them decisions based on my thinking again. Mm-hmm. Now, if you're in here, you're probably going to understand this, whether you're on either side of the fence, AA or Al-Anon. My best thinking, my absolute best thinking, drove me insane and damn near killed me. Now, why would I want to go back and use that same stuff again? You see, nobody ever held me down, put no alcohol and no dope in me. I even asked my sponsor one time, I said, if somebody kidnaps me, ties me up, pours a quart of liquor down my throat, do I have to pick up a white chip? Has any of y'all ever been kidnapped, tied up, held down, and had a quart of liquor poured down your throat? No. And if you tell me yes, I ain't gonna believe it. You know, I'm sitting here tonight and we're laughing. How many New Year's Eves was it nothing fun going on? I woke up one time with my face glued to the battleship gray floor. I don't know if there's something gray in here. With my own blood in a jailhouse. And had no idea. I knew where I was. I knew I was in jail. But I have no idea what happened. You know, people don't have a problem, don't end up like that. I don't want anybody bothering people. I think I'll go to jail and I kick the shit out of myself. Let the blood pour out of my head, glue my face to the floor, and wake up and say, boy, thank you. It's tickled to death to do this stuff. But back to my Al-Anon deal, you know, and that fella invited me to come to Al-Anon, and I did all that stuff, and started meeting people, and started making a little progress. And I had another spiritual awakening. My daughter never once did what she did just to tick me off. My daughter was just like her daddy, who drank and used because that's what she had to do. And when I finally came to grips with that, I prayed this prayer, and I tell you this prayer, it was powerful for me. And you got to really listen, because if you don't, you'll think I said something I didn't say here. But I asked my higher power, Pop. I said, Pop, let me accept your will in my daughter's life, whatever it may be, even if she has to die. I did not ask him to take my daughter's life. I asked him to allow me to accept whatever his will was, even if it was that. And I got free. Don't know if you need something to be free of, but if you do, you might talk to your higher power about it. You know, I'm going to tie it up here in a minute. I seriously, folks, I could talk forever. I was able to be there. Both my mom and dad is passing because of this plan of recovery and because of Al-Anon. And I was a kid that was always gone whenever they needed me. They couldn't find me. In January of 2020, before the pandemic really took off, it was already tinkering around. Nobody wanted to admit it. My ex-wife called me. Now this is ex-wife number 2 and 3. Y'all can figure that out, can't you? What's insanity? And she said, Randy, I need some help. And I immediately said, well, I wonder what this is going to cost. I mean, hell, I'm self-centered, you know. I mean, really. And me and her were good friends after we divorced again. But we, you know, I've even stayed at her house when she was living in Savannah. Not in her bed, but in her house. And she said she needed some help, and I asked her what was going on, and she kind of explained it to me, and immediately got in the car and drove to Savannah and picked her up and brought her back up here. She stayed in my house, not in my bed. And the next day I took her to Atlanta, to Emory, to get her checked out, and it was what was kind of expected. She was a 19-year survivor of breast cancer. And the breast cancer had come back on the back of her eye. So I'm going to say this right here, right now. I don't care what you do, ladies, you go get yourselves checked frequently. Don't play with this stuff. That's my soapbox for tonight. But I took her up there and they told us what we needed to know. Now, I didn't have no plans of taking care of my ex-wife. I'm going to tell you. That was not part of Randy's plan. Pop had something to do with it, though. And brought her back down here, and we got her checked completely out. And it wasn't just in the back of her eye; it was in her brain, and in her spine, and in her long bones, and it was horrible. It was bad. And I tell you that because Al-Anon taught me how to help an alcoholic. When she finally passed away in July of last year, she had 34 years of continuous sobriety. We're going to run into, as Al-Anon, we have to be careful how we help people because we're good at enabling. We have to learn how to help and not enable. But anyway, she stayed in my house from then until in June of 2021, I couldn't take care of her anymore. I couldn't hold her up. I didn't have enough arms. I needed to become an octopus. But I had to hold her up, change her diaper, clean her. Just all of the things. Take care of a really large baby. And, like I said, I didn't plan to do that stuff, folks. And I'm not telling you because I want your sympathy. I'm telling you because these are the things that life was going to throw out at you. And if you're not connected up somehow spiritually with your higher power and the program of recovery and these sponsors that we sometimes don't want to use, and the literature we don't want to read, life's going to hit you. And sometimes you don't have a thing in the world to say about it. It's just there. But I was able to take care of her and feed her and clothe her and do, The blessing was that COVID hit. And I couldn't go anywhere. I didn't need to go anywhere. I was able to be there. And Zoom, I finally figured out how to get on Zoom meetings. Anybody ever wondered how the Brady Bunch was on Zoom in 1970? And we think it just started the other day. Anyhow, y'all see, I may go off somewhere and just start talking about something that don't mean nothing. But I took care of her, did the best I could, and I feel like my higher power was pleased with what I'd become. And I had to put her in a nursing home, and she made it another month in the nursing home. And here comes the daughter, back into Randy's head. And my daughter had gotten herself back in a bad fix, and the drugs were controlling her life. And she couldn't make it home to say goodbye to her mama before she died. Now, I'm not going to have to live with that. My daughter will. But she finally, something clicked. I hope I don't want to say she turned herself in, but she got turned. By a long story short, if you're riding with somebody and the police pull you over and they check that driver's license for the driver, guess what else they're going to do? they're gonna check your license for being in the car riding. And when they did, one of them little things came up and it said, we ain't playing Monopoly, but do not pass go, go straight to jail, do not collect $200. And she went straight to jail. And I know today that I'm so blessed. And me and her talk now, she's in that women's facility. She said, it's not prison, Daddy, it's a facility. I said, okay, all right. They got really good food here now. She was in the same one 4 or 5 years ago. Maybe the food's better. She's getting her old job back, working in the laundry. I said, my God, you're tickled to death about being there. She said, yes, because I'm alive. And God saved me. The way what she was doing and how she was doing it was pretty deadly. And we talk on the phone, you know. It took me a while. I finally put a little money on there where she can make a phone call only to me. I ain't paying for her to talk to all them other daggone people. No, we ain't going there. And I even put a little money on the books for something at Christmas, you know. And that's a miracle. And this is a child that I couldn't make up my mind which one of us needed to check out. Folks, this power greater than us, whatever you choose to call it, can do miraculous things. And it will, or she will, or it will, or they will, whatever you want to call it. Like I said, Pop soon fit me. I believe we're all children of God. Whatever you want to call God is up to you. I still go to one Al-Anon meeting a week. I still go to my other stuff across the hall. Because if I don't take care of that, I will not come to this. I can assure you. I got mad one day. I was talking to the sweet ladies in Al-Anon. It was a Saturday meeting, and we were walking out, and they said, we're going downtown. You want to go with us? I said, what you going to do? They said, we're going to get us a beer. I said, I don't think so. That got me a resentment. By God, they can work the steps and drink. That ain't fair. Thank God it ain't fair. You see, I've lost the choice in that matter. I've gained access to a power greater than me that can solve my problems. I'm actually happier than I've ever been in I don't know, maybe ever. I love my daughter, I love my grandchildren. They're living with another grandma and granddaddy. We got 3 sets of grandmamas and granddaddies. You ever figure that stuff out? Woo-wee. Strange going on in that world. My youngest granddaughter just is coming off of a bout with COVID. So take care of yourself in that respect. Do what you need to do. I'm not telling you what you got to do. I'm just telling you do not believe that it won't get you. Just like alcoholism and drug addiction. And none of us, I did not sit down and say, boy, Heidi, I'm going to be the best dope fiend there ever has been. I'm going to be the baddest alcoholic y'all have ever seen. And I ain't going to need to go to Al-Anon. But I sure am glad I came. I appreciate y'all. I know it's been a tough time right now. We had bad weather and stuff, but we're still here safe and sound. Good food, good fellowship. And I'm sorry for those folks that have missed it. But I love you and I appreciate you and thank you for letting me share.
Thank you, Randy. Thank you.